Massive new lore is giving us a glimpse at the other side of Azeroth. There are dragons there, perhaps. We've got dwarves somewhere named Kaz Algar. All of Warcraft's eldritch horrors are becoming more relevant, and in this brand new lore that's dropped in the game, almost everything is pointing to the west, not to Kalimdor, but beyond. And a lot of it has got to do with Tyr. It's going to be a pretty crazy situation, and we'll get there with the help of today's sponsor. Squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming. They are innovating pretty damn hard in 2023. Their already amazing site editor has some massive new features. Fluid Engine, which lets you just put things where you want. It is so cool. It takes the clunk out of most web builders. It just kind of operates in that what you see is what you get kind of intuitive way that I absolutely love. And also Squarespace Blueprint, which lets you build your own template from scratch. It's awesome because between going through Blueprint and then fine-tuning things with Fluid Engine, making a website that looks terrific, it's never been easier, and still one that feels super custom. But what's also awesome is that with their new bio sites, you can make an awesome link in bio site to go along with your full website, which makes it so easy to just get this nice, cohesive, end-to-end web presence just going in absolutely no time. And of course, the same ease of use and design that led to their award-winning templates being award-winning shines through everything else. And that allows everyone, regardless of design experience, to make a modern, slick site with a good color palette and lovely fonts that is responsive across mobile, tablets, and desktop. And here's what's amazing. You can make an account today and you can build your site for free. And when you're ready to send it live, just use code Bellular Gaming to get 10% off an annual plan. We've got a lot to cover, including a new book found in the Emerald Dream. And these lore dumps are coming kind of at the tail end of Dragonflight. They're setting up what is to come for years. And in my view, there's one guy who ties almost all of this together, and that is Tyr. Now, Tyr is responsible basically for the Dragon Isles. He essentially founded Uldoris, accidentally created Galakrond, whoops, uplifted the dragons after they helped him solve Galakrond, but what was the point of him as a character in Dragonflight? I mean, we probably thought he would be a real big deal, that he'd perhaps be a character pretty soon, sooner than he has been. And you can see why. There is so much shrouded in a mystery that Tyr could clarify with a single conversation, almost more than any other character. He has knowledge that we seek. And this whole expansion, we've been running around rebuilding him in a series of quests that seemed important but didn't exactly mix in with the plot of the Incarnates. By now though, it's patch 10.1.7, and we're only just setting up the mission to reclaim his memory disk. So, how long until he's back? 10.2? 10.2.5? 0.7? How much time are we actually going to get with Tyr this expansion? And surely by then, most of the dragon stuff will be wrapped up. Well, what if, actually, Tyr isn't meant to play a huge role through the majority of this expansion, or to protect the Emerald Dream with us? What if Tyr is rather the bridge to our next expansion, because all those unexplained mysteries, titanic lies, broken timeways, the truth of the Black Empire, he is at their core. He has the answers. One of the biggest questions is, what is at the other side of Azeroth? And in patch 10.2, we find out that Tyr knows all about it. And it's beyond clear that him and Odin, well, wouldn't exactly get on. And while Odin has his Valajar, Tyr, in fact, has his guard. The next stage in Tyr's grand arc has happened, yet we're not massively close to getting him back. And that's because in Fury Incarnate, we helped Tavard reform Tyr's guard, an ancient Vrykul order that followed Tyr and eventually became the guardians of his tomb, with this job then being handed down to humanity, though this is a sect of humans that would be all but destroyed by the Scourge. Now, those who remained and held on, they reappeared in Legion. They helped to defend that tomb, and they helped us reclaim this Silver Hand artifact weapon. But they were still a shattered order. Now though, in the present day, with the Silver Scale having led us to Tyr's secret messages and a forge that can restore his body, well, Tavard, their leader, clearly knows that it's time for him to reform the order in earnest. So, we help train new recruits in Brackenhide Hollow, readying them for their first mission, and it's a pretty big mission, to reclaim Tyr's memory disk. Okay, quick recap. The Dragonflight pre-patch dungeon was Uldaman, right? We venture to a new wing of that facility. And just like the original dungeon, at its end there was a Disc of Titan knowledge. This time around, it was a disc containing Tyr's memories and personality. We tried to get this disc, but we were thwarted by the infinite dragons. Basically, we got there and Chrono Lord Deus threw it into a time portal out of our reach. And that threw up a huge question. Why do the infinite dragons not want us to bring Tyr back or to access what he knew? Keep that in mind. Now, while we learned much from this new Uldaman by finding a lot of secret documents, we did fail that main objective. Later when we travel to the Isles though, we find Tyr's fingerprints absolutely everywhere. I mean, we discovered his old base, affectionately named Tyrhold, and since then, we've went into a secret lab underneath the world, discovered how he experimented with infusing various powers into the dragons, including decay, which is probably what inadvertently led to Galakrond. Next though, we locate this protocol built into his facilities that is designed to rebuild his body. And that, of course, brings us back to the memory disk. With us essentially having a restored body, we need that back. But the Infinites have stashed it away in time, and we'll have to get it. Through the new quest chain, Eternus, the Infinite Dragon, helps Chromie triangulate the disk's location by placing beacons throughout time. This opens portals. One of them sends us back to the Winter Scorn War. That's when the Dragonflights fought and defeated the Vrykul of Northrend, which is what ended with them being sent to sleep, only for the Lich King, thousands of years later, to wake them up. The second beacon location is Tyr's triumph over Ragnaros during the Ordering of Azeroth, and the final beacon is placed within the Black Empire. And with all three placed, we're able to find the location of our disc. It's in Suramar. It's in the Nighthold. Not nowadays, but back in time when Elisond was ruling at the height of her power. Now, the Nightwell is a really interesting thing. It's a bit like the Sunwell, but its big difference is it's empowered by the Eye of Aman'Thul, and that essentially gives it power over time and space. It's incredibly powerful. Elisond is a character who had incredible time magic, and the words she spoke to player characters in Legion I think still feel quite relevant, even though that's a story for another day. But it is no surprise that she ends up having this, and we find out that she is in league with the Infinites. The thing is, though, with our target identified, that questline ends. And it does make the future rather clear then. We will bust into Suramar, probably fight Elisond, and try to reclaim Tyr's memory disk. And that's where a piece of patch 10.2 reward data mining comes in. There's a reward called the Tabard of Tyr's Guard. So I think it's quite clear what's going to happen. In patch 10.2, we will carry out that mission. We'll go to the Nightwell, and we'll probably recover that memory disk. Perhaps, within 10.2, the memory disk and the body will be united. Right in time for Farak's defeat, and the open question of just what the hell is going to happen next. Because 10.2 will likely be followed by 10.2.5 and 10.2.7, and even if patch 10.3 doesn't happen, there is still lots of room for narrative content before the next expansion drops. As a piece of content, this is all quite great. What shines through is Tavard and the Tyr's Guard's faith, right? They have this light-like faith in Tyr as a person. They have faith he's going to return, and that when he does, they will walk by his side, become his vanguard. They're clearly being set up as a group that's going to be relevant into the future, and to understand that future, we first need to learn about an old folktale from back in the days of peace before Tyr's demise. The Emerald Dream is full of old stories, and today we're talking about one called The Tragedy of Erinithria. It's about a green dragon whose quick mind was only matched by how fast she could fly and her relentless curiosity. She explored the four corners of the world. She saw all of Kalimdor, everything that she thought there was to see. Growing bored, she asked Tyr if there was anything else out there, to which he replied, "Everything you need is here, child. What else could you want to see? What else could you seek to know?" But she felt a wind surging from the west, and she wondered, where is this wind from? Is it just endless ocean right until you bump into the land that she had already traveled? So she presses Tyr on this, who solemnly replies, "Beyond the storming sea lies only ruin. Stay close to home, stay close to kin." And this is a line that I think is big. I mean, ruin? What ruin? What's the ruin caused by? What's actually going on? Why is it called the Storming Sea? So Tyr obviously knows something that we do not. He knows what's there, or at the very least he knows that there is something called the Storming Sea that cannot be passed. Of course, look in the game map right now and you don't see the Storming Sea, but to the west of the supercontinent of Kalimdor, what we do have is what's now called the Veiled Sea. Arthria is, of course, undaunted. She says she can fly higher than any storm, faster than thunder, and so she embarks, set on finding what lies beyond the present knowledge dragons even have of the world. And of course, if you're a being like a Titan Keeper, dragons do pose a little bit of a problem because they can fly anywhere they want, and they're also very intelligent. So if you are a keeper with something to hide, yeah, you would want mythological, almost legendary stories to dissuade these dragons. Arthria set forth, but she was never seen again with waking eyes. When she went missing, everyone searched for her. Even Ysera woke to find out what she could do to help. All thought she was lost, and most still do. That's the point of this legend, but some say they think they've seen her in their dreams, and they think she's even raised her own brood in some far-flung land. And that's the thing that is quite huge. This is even more confirmation of what lies beyond our map, and unlike with other hints, it even contains a dire warning from a Titan Keeper, right? Why would he say it'll bring only ruin? Maybe it's just a secret and it won't bring ruin, this is just a lie to be a deterrent. Or maybe it is a true threat. A threat from thousands of years ago, or maybe it is a storm in response to that threat. You might be wondering what I'm talking about, and it's this. Back in Uldaman, we learn of a place that's called Avaloren, and we know that in that place there are a bunch of heretics. And these heretics were actually so strong that they sent multiple of Odin's expeditions to take them out right back into the sea from whence they came, with their debris washing ashore for the Titan Keepers to find. Whoever these heretics are or were, they were so strong that Odin was simply advised in the documents that we find to just leave them alone. Add to that the likes of the Algarian dwarves that I've discussed recently, the whole legend of the Night Squall pirate captain, and Neltharion's refutation that Kalimdor is our world's only continent. And it just makes me think, why was Odin so hellbent on destroying those heretics? Why did the Titan Keepers refer to that sea as the Storming Sea? And can this play a role in what's to come next? The answer to that is almost certainly. So here's the deal with Odin. He hates dragons. In fact, the whole reason why he stole part of Ulduar and blasted it up into the sky, with it, of course, being called the Halls of Valor then, is because he didn't think the aspects were good enough to be guardians for Azeroth, so he decided to do it himself, to make his own force, the Valajar. But the thing is, for all of his dragon hating, Odin does actually have his own pet flight of dragons, the Storm Drakes. They were just somewhat imprisoned. Now, Odin, known as the Lord of Storms, and along with Helya, builder of realms, things like the Elemental Plane, the Halls of Valor, Helheim. Even parts of the Emerald Dream were ordered by the Titan Keepers. But our first ever reference to Avalor, as I mentioned, was in a report to Odin about how he didn't have control, about how his expeditions to kill these heretics were a fail. So that means that Odin is actually ground zero of this new lore. Now, while we call it the Veiled Sea in-game, note that story that I just told you, right, where Tyr calls it the Storming Sea. That's kind of interesting because Odin, to the Vrykul, is a storm god. He also, of course, as with his Norse namesake, is associated with ravens. He's got 2 named ravens that he has in-game. And all of this resurfaces a whisper from Il'gynoth, all the way back in Legion. With Legion, of course, being the expansion that Odin was introduced to the game. This is the line. The Lord of Ravens will turn the key. Okay. What if the Storming Sea isn't natural? What if, faced with heretics so powerful that his forces could not best them, Odin sealed the lands beyond Kalimdor far away with a great and terrible storm? And then remember, the Datamined Mount from our next expansion's Heroic Edition is called the Algarian Stormrider. So if the meaning of the Lord of Ravens will turn the key is pretty much that somehow this storm will be lifted and we will be able to travel there, you do wonder why Il'gynoth would spout prophecy about that. Like, how would he know about that? Why would he care about the other side of Azeroth? Well, I think it's fairly clear. It's because his allies are very much at work. Iridikron and Xalotat's dealings in Dragonflight will obviously thrust us into WoW's next expansion, and if we're not quite ready for Blizzard to ship a world revamp, then perhaps their attempt to, as Iridikron puts it, pry Azeroth from the Titan's grip, perhaps that will bring us somewhere new. And as all of this happens, Tyr's body will be restored, and it will be reunited with, essentially, his mind, his personality, and his memories. Tyr is a character who, yes, is a Titan Keeper, but also believes in mortals, who believes in dragons, who now has an elite force of humans that we have helped train. Now, Tyr ultimately disagrees with Odin on a hell of a lot, so while I expect them to start off as allies to maybe have a warm interaction as they see each other after a very long time, even though, of course, this in a way wouldn't be the full original Tyr, depending on how the mechanics of that memory disk work. Anyhow, I think there's no doubt their relationship will drive much of what is to come. I think this is some pretty crazy stuff, and even if the connection of Odin being worshipped as a storm god and the storming sea, even if that doesn't come to pass, just the fact that we've got Tyr coming back, the natural tensions between Tyr and Odin, and then this new story telling us about wherever the hell Arthria went, I mean, come on. It's honestly all really fun. This is the sort of bread and butter lore that I absolutely love covering in this channel. It's not getting so lost in the tiny little details and, the cosmic chart that it doesn't mean anything anymore. This is actually stuff that happened in history with characters that we can see and meet, and that is why it makes me excited. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. You can check out this one next if you want some real spicy, interesting stuff about the next WoW expansion.